Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be doing things a little differently. Well, not really differently, but we're going to be focusing on something that I think a lot of our listeners are going to be familiar with. At least I hope they are. Because if you've ever been to an Indian grocery store, you've definitely seen this brand.
Yeah, definitely a familiar sight, those bright yellow bags and boxes.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about Haldiram's,
Haldiram's snack empire.
a snack empire. That's exactly right. So we've got a ton of research on Haldiram's, and we're going to be trying to figure out how they got so big, how they went from this small shop in India to what they are now.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating story. It's food, it's culture, it's business, all kind of intertwined.
Yeah.
It's really all about knowing your customer, I think, and moving with the times, but also like keeping that core identity.
Yeah, and speaking of the times, we need to rewind way back to the 1930s to a town called Bikaner in India.
Okay, back in time we go.
Back in time we go. There we find a young Ganga Bishan Agarwal who was nicknamed Haldiram, and he was working in his family's shop, and they specialized in bhujia.
Pujia.
Bhujia. Yeah, have you ever had bhujia before?
Oh, yeah, love it. It's like crispy, savory, almost like a noodle, I guess. Super popular in India. You have it with chai, or it's part of chaat.
Yes, all that good stuff. I feel like I've only ever had it as part of chaat, so.
Yeah, it's one of those snacks that it's not just food, it's like a whole cultural thing. It's for celebrations, with family or friends, all that.
So Haldiram, he was already tapping into something really special then with that cultural significance. And from the beginning, he was really focused on quality,
Mm.
right? Like using the best ingredients, making sure it had that perfect crunch, making sure that the flavor was consistent every time.
Consistency is key,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, that dedication to quality, that's really the foundation of their whole empire. You can see it even today, I think.
absolutely. Now, the story really starts to pick up when the family moves to Nagpur in the 1950s.
Nagpur, big city, bustling, lots of opportunity. But what really sets Haldiram's apart is that this is when they start packaging their snacks.
Okay, so I've never even thought about that. Like, that's just normal now, right?
Yeah, totally. But back then, snacks were usually sold loose, from big
Oh,
containers.
wow.
So when they started packaging things, it was like a huge deal for customers. It showed that they cared about hygiene and consistent quality, especially when that wasn't always a given.
Yeah, it was a great marketing move, I imagine.
Right.
You're at the store, you see these neatly packaged snacks compared to the ones just kind of like sitting out in the open.
And totally built trust right away. You knew what you were getting.
And that packaging allowed them to really expand their reach, right?
Exactly. Suddenly, they could reach customers all over different neighborhoods, towns. It was a big step in becoming a recognizable brand, something people could rely on.
So they've got quality, they've got packaging, and now they set their sights on Delhi, the capital city in the 1990s.
Delhi, a huge move, even bigger market.
What happens when they get there?
So Delhi, it's a melting pot, right? So many different cultures, so many tastes. Haldiram saw that and adapted. They added sweets, they added chat, even full
So
meals.
it wasn't just bougie anymore.
Not at all. They were offering a way wider variety, appealing to all those different people.
So they're thinking about the people who miss those classic flavors, but also those who might want to try something new, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they did a really good job of balancing that. They weren't just chasing trends, they were taking those classic recipes and giving them a twist or adding new products that
Yeah.
still felt true to what they were all about.
So what kind of twist are we talking?
Oh, well, like aloo bhujia, it's the classic bhujia, but they added potato.
Oh, good.
It was a huge hit.
I bet. Okay, so now they've conquered Delhi, and it seems like they weren't stopping there, because now we see Haldiram's going global, over 40 countries. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's amazing.
So how did they translate their success to a global scale?
Well, you got to think about the Indian diaspora, right? Those who moved abroad and maybe were missing those familiar tastes.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Haldiram's provided that, but at the same time, they also appealed to people who were just curious about Indian flavors. It was like a gateway to something new and exciting, and they managed to do all of this without losing their core identity.
So it's like familiar and exotic at the same time. Traditional but modern.
Exactly. It's a tough balance, but they nailed it.
So what do you think were the core pillars of their success? What's
Yeah.
the secret sauce that allowed them to grow so much?
Well, it all starts with that dedication to quality and consistency that we talked about before, right?
Right.
But it goes beyond just good ingredients. It's about having those really strict quality control processes at every single step, from like sourcing ingredients to production, making sure every pack tastes exactly the same no matter where you buy it in the world.
I actually read this story about Haldiram himself rejecting a whole batch of bhujia just because the color was slightly off.
Wow, yeah, that's dedication.
The quality alone doesn't guarantee global success.
Hmm.
So what else was there?
Well, they also understood that you got to innovate. You got to keep moving. So they were early to adopt those automated production lines, which helped them scale up without sacrificing quality. They were always experimenting with new flavors, adapting recipes to modern tastes, even updating their packaging to stay relevant.
So they were basically masters of evolution.
Yeah, exactly. They were evolving with the times, but always keeping that special something that made them Haldirams.
So we've got quality, we've got innovation. What else?
Building a strong brand identity was also crucial.
Yeah.
Think about the emotions people associate with Haldirams. It's trust, quality, tradition, a little bit of nostalgia. They're packaging those bright colors, the imagery. It all evokes Indian culture and connects with people on a deeper level.
And their marketing often showed families enjoying Haldiram snacks together. Right.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't just selling a snack. It was selling a feeling, a memory, a connection.
So that emotional resonance really played a role in their global success.
For sure it did.
Okay, so quality innovation, strong brand. What else contributed to their growth?
Well, they were also super customer focused. They really listened to feedback and adapted their offerings to meet people's needs. They introduced vegetarian and vegan options. They invested heavily in hygiene, and they even tweaked their recipes to suit regional tastes.
Like they're going above and beyond.
Yeah, I remember reading that they have a less spicy version of their bhujia in some parts of India just because that's what people prefer there.
Wow. It shows they really cared about making the customer feel heard and valued.
Absolutely. It was all about building that trust and loyalty. And finally, you can't talk about Haldiram's success without talking about family values and vision. From Haldiram himself with his focus on quality to his sons who expanded the business and then their children who took it global, the Agarwal family's dedication and their shared vision were always at the heart of it all.
A true family affair.
It really is. But, family businesses can get complicated, especially at that scale. I mean, there must have been challenges along the way, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. And we're going to be diving into those challenges, those controversies in the next part of our deep dive. But before we move on, what's standing out to you so far about Haldiram's journey?
Well, what really strikes me is how they've managed to constantly evolve while staying true to their core values. They embraced new tech, they expanded their offerings, adapted to different markets, but they never lost sight of that focus on quality and customer satisfaction. It's impressive.
It's like they found that perfect blend of tradition and innovation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what makes their story so interesting. So for our listeners who are now ready to hear about the challenges Haldiram's faced and how they overcame those bumps in the road, make sure to stick around for part 2 of our deep dive vision. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're unraveling the story of Haldiram's, and before the break, we talked about their beginnings, their expansion, and that commitment to quality. But as we all know, no success story is without its challenges, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And with Haldiram's, a lot of those challenges came from managing a big family-run business isn't easy.
Right.
Their shared vision was definitely a strength, but it also led to some friction, some pretty well-documented disputes, even legal battles within the family.
Yeah, and those conflicts were often made out to be like these huge dramatic rifts. But is there maybe something else going on there? Is that common in family businesses?
Oh, it's definitely common, especially with a business as big and successful as Haldiram's. Imagine multiple generations all with their own ideas, their own ambitions, all trying to figure out the future of this legacy that was built by their grandfathers and great-grandfathers.
Yeah.
There's always that tension between keeping the tradition and embracing the new, between preserving history and forging your own path.
It's like walking a tightrope.
Oh,
Right. So how did these family conflicts impact the business? Did it slow them down at all?
Well, it definitely presented challenges, but it didn't derail their success. Some people even argue that these disagreements actually made them stronger, made them more adaptable,
Interesting.
They had to find solutions. They had to keep moving forward. It really shows how strong their foundation was, that they could weather these internal storms and still come out on top.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even the most successful companies have these internal struggles, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's how they deal with those challenges that shows their true resilience.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit and look ahead. The world's changing so fast. Tastes are changing, new technology. There's this growing focus on health and sustainability. What do you think the future holds for Haldiram's? What challenges and opportunities are out there?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? If Haldiram's wants to stay on top, they have to anticipate these changes and adapt. And one of the biggest challenges I see is definitely evolving consumer preferences.
Yeah.
People are becoming more health conscious. They want snacks that are not only delicious, but also good for them.
Right.
Haldiram's has already started introducing some baked and roasted snacks, which is a good start. But what else can they do to appeal to these health conscious consumers?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, they could start incorporating more whole grains, pulses, superfoods, those kinds of things. Maybe reduce the sodium and sugar content in some of their products.
So basically healthier versions of their classics.
Exactly. Imagine snacks that are both delicious and nutritious. That would be huge.
It would be interesting to see how they could innovate while still keeping those authentic flavors that people love.
Okay.
But besides health, there's also the rise of e-commerce, online shopping. How do you think that's going to impact Haldiram's?
I think it's a huge opportunity for them. It's a way to reach even more customers, connect with them directly.
How so?
They need to invest in their online presence, make online ordering and delivery really easy, maybe partner with food delivery platforms.
So like having a really good website and app.
Exactly. They could even offer personalized recommendations based on what you like, or maybe subscription boxes tailored to your tastes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I think people would love that.
But what about sustainability? That's becoming really important to people, especially when it comes to food and packaging. How can Haldiram's address those concerns?
Well, that's definitely an area where they can have a big impact. Imagine Haldiram's becoming a leader in sustainable snacking.
Yeah.
They could source ingredients from local farmers who use sustainable practices. They could reduce their environmental footprint by using renewable energy in their factories. And they could make their packaging recyclable or even compostable.
That would be a huge undertaking, but it would be amazing to see them take the lead on that.
I agree. It would align perfectly with their values of quality and customer care.
But let's zoom out for a second and think about Haldiram's impact on the bigger picture. What does their success say about the future of Indian cuisine?
I think it shows how popular Indian food is becoming worldwide. It's not just about traditional dishes anymore. Indian flavors and spices are being used in all sorts of modern cooking. And Haldiram's, with their global reach, they've played a big role in introducing those flavors to a wider audience.
So they've basically paved the way for other Indian food brands to enter the global market.
Exactly. They've broken down barriers, they've expanded people's palates, they've created a space for Indian flavors to shine on a global stage.
That's amazing.
It really is.
So what's the key takeaway here for our listeners? What can they learn from Haldiram's journey?
I think Haldiram's story shows us that tradition and innovation can work together. You can honor your roots while embracing new ideas. You can adapt to change without losing your core values.
It's all about that balance.
Exactly.
And it's a good reminder that success isn't just about luck.
Yeah.
It's about having a clear vision, working hard, being willing to learn and grow. And for those of us who just love a good snack, it's a reminder that sometimes the simplest things like a perfectly spiced bhujia can bring people together and create something really special.
That's a great way to put it.
So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, we want to hear from you, our listeners.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
What parts of Haldiram's story resonated with you? What insights have you gained? Share your comments and join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll talk about Haldiram's legacy and what the future holds for this incredible snack empire. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been on quite a journey with Haldiram's, haven't we? From their humble beginnings to global domination and all the bumps along the way. And now as we wrap things up, let's talk about their legacy, what they've left behind.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Haldiram's legacy goes way beyond just snacks. They've really become a symbol of Indian entrepreneurship, a testament to hard work, vision, and that deep understanding of culture and taste.
Yeah, it's true. They've really captured those Indian flavors and shared them with the world in a way that feels both authentic and approachable. But what does their legacy mean for the future? How can they keep innovating and evolving, but stay true to their roots?
Well, that's the big question, right? The food industry is constantly changing, so Haldiram's has to stay ahead of the game if they want to stay on top.
Wow.
We've already talked about appealing to health-conscious consumers and being more sustainable, but there's another area where I think they could really make a difference.
Ooh, I'm curious. Tell me more.
Imagine Haldiram's becoming like a platform, a way to showcase all the amazing diversity of Indian cuisine. you know?
Okay.
Like they could partner with regional artisans and food producers,
Right.
and create a curated selection of unique and authentic snacks from all over India.
Oh, wow, that's a great idea. It
Yeah.
would be like a culinary tour of India all packed into those iconic Haldiram's containers. It
Exactly.
wouldn't just introduce new flavors to the world, but it would also support local communities and help preserve those traditional culinary practices.
It's a win-win for everyone you know.
Yeah, I love that. It's a vision that honors their past, but also creates a path for a brighter future.
Mm.
But what about our listeners? What can they take away from Haldiram's story? What lessons can they apply to their own lives?
Well, I think Haldiram's shows us that success isn't just about luck or being in the right place at the right time. It's about having that clear vision, working hard, being willing to adapt and change.
It's about understanding your customer, building trust, never compromising on quality, and maybe most importantly, it's about staying true to who you are while also embracing new possibilities.
You said it. Haldiram's journey is a testament to human ingenuity, cultural heritage, and,
Yeah.
that simple joy of sharing delicious food with the world.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive into Haldiram's. But before we go, I have a little challenge for our listeners.
A
I
challenge.
want everyone to go out and find a Haldiram snack, if you haven't already, and really savor those flavors. The flavors that have captured so many hearts and taste buds all over the world.
Mhm.
And as you're enjoying each bite, think about the story behind the brand, the legacy they built, and the lessons we've talked about.
And maybe as you're munching on that hujia or enjoying that ladoo, you'll be inspired to dream big. Embrace your own passions and maybe even